This is Chow Chun Lee and Jamarius Herbs, and we are No Spider All Well. Today we were discussing our project of the 15 puzzle. And in this project, we created a 15 puzzle, which is basically an image on some tile, and you move the tile around and shuffle them up, and then you try to get the image back. And as always, we have a selection process, and with the main core of the project being so difficult, we kind of made the selection process easy. We just used a different link to a different page for each puzzle. And that kind of made it easy because we were spending so much time working on creating the image and shuffle and the functions. It was quite difficult. And so one of the first things we want to talk about is the puzzle pieces. And we kind of made the pieces well, first off, the pieces are 16 minus 1. And by that, I mean it's really 16 pieces, but one of them is like a blank piece. So it's just an empty space. And so we use div containers inside of a larger div container, which was called square, but we'll talk about that later. But we use those containers to make separate squares for each one, making it smaller than the 400 by 400 larger area. All right, and the overall puzzle area, as I said, we used the ID called square, and it was just basically a large image of whatever image we selected for each puzzle. But as I said, we had different puzzles, so for each one it was a different image, basically, just a different image separated and split up into smaller squares. All right, so the shuffle, we use the shuffle to shuffle the pieces. When you first click on the page, you'll see the complete puzzle, the way it's supposed to be, and how it will look when you complete it. And we put a shuffle button at the bottom, so when you click shuffle, it shuffles all the pieces up. And we kind of created a variable initialized to the child of get by ID, where when we got the ID, we retrieved the child of the puzzle. So the ID would have been puzzle, is actually what the ID was called in this situation. And we use the ID puzzle and the child of the puzzle, which will be the div, like the smaller pieces, the smaller squares. And then next, we kind of created a variable that was called random to help retrieve the random cells. And so when I say we had random, we had a variable called random, and we used that variable inside of a special function for shuffling, and that kind of made it. Actually, that made it pretty easy once we did that function for shuffle. All right, and also splitting it up and making a puzzle and doing the shuffle is basically just a grid, or basically a multi-dimensional array, and we dissected it into parts using the variable called grid actually, and it's like I say, nothing more than a multi-dimensional array. And also, if you see when we created the grid variable, uh, you have false, 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 true. And when you see true, we'll get to later, so just remember that part. So, as I said, with this project, I would think this is the project we had the most amount of functions. Like, I can't recall through the other projects. I know the last project with the PHP, we had some different functions. But this one, I think this had the most functions out of all the projects we've done so far. And so one of the functions, just to do a quick view of one of the functions. I don't want to go through all the functions. Clearly, that would take forever. So I just picked one of them, and one of them was the function open block. And so when I said the open space, this is how we found the open space. If you see, we have the grid, and wherever you see the two is actually the second, well, the third parameter where we had the true and the false. So two would be according to that because you know it goes 0, 1, 2. So the two will be according to that. And whenever the two is true, that's how we know that's our empty space, the non-visible one. And so, as I said, this project kind of took a lot. I mean, it was very exhausting. It was times when we thought we might not make it, it might not be finished, but we were able to bring it all together. And when I say bring it all together, I mean we used a combination of everything we learned so far throughout this semester. We used a CSS file for style. We also used a JavaScript, and of course we had the HTML, which is the main part. So as I said, the CSS did the styling. The HTML was what we would call the entree of the project, while the JavaScript acted as the brain and did all the functions and made everything cooperate and shuffle around and that type of thing. And this is just a screenshot from what the main page actually looks like. And this is where you pick which puzzle you want to do. And with this, we try to get creative. Like I know the project wasn't really supposed to be about CSS and that type of thing. It was more so about the JavaScript. But quite honestly, this part was quite fun. We kind of set it up, but I'll show you that part as we go to it and play around with it a little. And this is just an example of one of the puzzles we have. And as I've been saying, 15 puzzle. We didn't really talk about the history of it, and pretty much the puzzle was a puzzle that was created around 1874 by Noyes Palmer Chapman, who was a postmaster in Canastasta, New York. Excuse me for messing that up. All right, and so now we're going to check it out. Give me a second. Let's switch over. Let's click over. We should be clicking over. All right, here we go. And as I said, like it's kind of cryptic, and you might not know what it means. So, like when you pick your puzzle, you would be kind of picking just what speaks out to you. So, let's say if you picked Adventure Candy, you would get a puzzle of Gumball from one of my favorite cartoons to watch with my kids. Uh, Adventures of Gumball. It's pretty funny. And we got Spirit Karate. What that means, I don't know, but it just kind of made me think of going Super Saiyan mode, and we kind of ended up with Goku in Super Saiyan mode. That's right. And then Family Time. I'm going to see if you all could guess what we might have for the puzzle for that. All right, time's up. All right, this is it. We had Family Guy. That was seemed pretty cool. It's kind of funny. Don't really watch it much during the football season, but it's pretty funny. And for old school, that part was tough. I was trying to think of an older cartoon that a lot of people could remember, so we ended up settling on The Simpsons. And this puzzle to me was a little more difficult because when you shuffle it, let's click the button. Yeah, it looks very weird. And what I didn't mention earlier is every time you make a move, it calculates and counts. So we had a shuffle count. That's a function, and it kind of just counts how many times you click the button. And I kind of lost track of that one time and ended up angry with my score. And once you complete it, it would say, yay, hooray. And that was pretty much it. All right, this is No Spider All Web signing off, and we do thank you. Have a good one.